What's up guys, Kevin Rogers with On Point Pro Styles, window tinting in Gainesville, Georgia. This video is going to be something I think is kind of overlooked, not talked about much, but just as important when you're tinting, and it's knife skills. So when I train classes, people seem to have trouble with understanding the ways and techniques of using this knife, and this knife is extremely important, especially during hand cutting, and you're always going to use it whether you're a plotter user or not. So it's pretty important to know the differences of the blade, how much blade to have out, the angle of the blade, when to use it, so on and so forth. So I'm going to run you through kind of a few things that we do in class. I show you the different ways to use the knife and use it successfully without chopping up seals or scratching windows. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so this is commonly referred to as the red dot, an NT red dot, one of the most popular knives in the industry. And one of the reasons is because of the micro clicks. You can dial out just a tiny bit of blade, and that's important, as you'll see here in a minute. Other blades actually are double that. So instead of you being able to get one tiny click like that, you end up with more blade. And less blade is better for some cases, more blade's better for other cases. So real quick, walk around the knife. You got your snapper here on the bottom. You actually take that out and run your blade up to the back side of this little piece. And then you're gonna grab it with your snapper. There's a slit here. Grab it on the back corner, just like this. It's sort of an angle, and you're gonna twist. So we'll take it and we'll twist it. It pops right off. Always aim it into a trash can because it can pop up and hit someone in the face. So always start with a fresh tip, fresh blade. Sharper the blade, the better result. So when we start class, I always put up a piece of film on my peel boards for my students to actually practice using the knife. And it's surprising, not so much for me anymore, but it's surprising to a lot of people to realize how important it is to use the knife properly and how little they know how to do that. So for any beginners out there, or even some that's been tinting for a short time and didn't know this about the knife, now's a good time to kind of figure it out. So when we're cutting on flat surfaces, one of the things that's important is keeping the bottom of the blade close to the glass. So if I only have a tiny bit of blade out and I'm trying to cut this film and keep the blade down, I'm probably not going to do very well cutting the tint because there's not enough blade out. It's the shoulder that's touching. So you actually want to run your blade out about 3 snaps. So you have enough blade out that you can keep that knife down and make a good clean cut without worrying about scratching the glass. So this is kind of a thing that we do for, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes, just having students just cut strips just like this, moving them apart, looking for, are they too soft coming in and then they bear down and you end up with the top not wanting to split, or are they too soft when they let up? It should be a nice, even, clean pressure all the way down, making those cuts. So believe that or not, if you're new, give that a try. You'll be shocked at how much practice you might need in order to get that proper. Always remember, if you've got that blade in, you're gonna wanna tilt the blade in order to make the cut. And that, well, number one, you see it's hard to start, but you can actually hear the blade etching the glass. So you never want that. There's a time and a place for that, but for any type of flat cutting, windshields, back windows, some quarter windows, you need that blade to be out so you can make cuts. As you make the cuts, you'll notice that they're getting harder and harder, and you're putting more and more pressure down on the blade, and you don't want to do that. If you're making the same cuts using about the same pressure and you're not cutting through, snap the blade. I always snap the blade every time my knife comes out of my pocket. If I make 2 long cuts, I snap it and I make the next 2 cuts. So they're cheap, use them up, and always keep a sharp blade. So that being said, the reason why we do this, we'll walk over here to this quarter window I've got set up on this car. Let me light it up real quick. This would be the reason why we would want a lot of blade out. Cutting on this car, if you've only got a little bit of blade out and you tilt that blade up to make that cut, there's a good chance you're gonna etch lines into that glass and they cannot be fixed. So you want to push that blade out, as I said before, and use that same technique we were using on the window or on the peel board to cut. Keep that bottom of the blade down. So as you're cutting, you're not using much pressure, the blade's close to the glass, and you don't have to worry about necessarily scratching the glass. Can you still scratch the glass that way? Yes, you can, by bearing down on it. So I always tell people, don't try to keep away from putting your finger on top of this blade because it makes you want to bear down on it. You should be able to cut the window completely with just holding the sides of the knife. And again, if you get to a portion where you're cut and it didn't cut through, take your blade, snap it, get a fresh tip, and make that cut again, and it'll be much better. Now, opposite of using the blade all the way out, you're gonna wanna use just a little bit of blade. So I always say no blade, some blade. No blade, some blade. This is all you need if you're gonna cut a door against the seals. People will gouge these rubber seals up and not realize why, and it's because they have too much blade out. And as they're making the cut, that blade being so far out, the blade can drive into that seal and chop the seals up. So when you have just that one click out, you're looking to get that blade just tucked behind that seal. You're looking for that air gap between the seal and the door, or the seal and the glass. So I'm gonna come down here and start my cut. Notice the angle of the blade. I can actually start my cut by holding my blade down, and the shoulder of the knife is pushing this tint in. When I wanna start my cut, I tilt up, and I'm just following that seal, feeling for the glass on one side and the seal on the other, cutting toward the bottom and not cutting the seal. That's how you're doing that. Now, alternatively, which I would recommend, especially if you're not really fluent with the knife, this is a great way to not worry about that seal and cut it on the peel board. So you take that, let's take this piece, let's take it back over here. So right here, we know is the very edge of that rubber, and we need enough to overhang in the door. So remember, drive you some blade out, and then overcut this by about 1/8 of an inch, so that extra film will tuck behind the door. So not much to this video, but again, I think it's extremely important, vitally important for anyone just getting into the game, or you just started and you didn't know that, been wondering why you keep shaving those seals on doors. It's just use of knife. So again, blade out when you're doing any kind of flat cutting, keep the blade down and low, and blade out when you're cutting on a door seal. One click out, and try to find that happy medium between the glass and the seal, and ride it all the way down nice and smooth, just feeling for the glass and the seal to keep you as a guide. So there it is. Who knew picking this up and just going to town with it actually required some skills? You can't just pick it up to start using it. You're gonna mess up glass, you're gonna mess up seals, and your cuts just aren't gonna be all that great. So this is a tool. It's one of the most important tools you'll have when you're tinting, and knowing how to use it is just as important as knowing how to install the tint. So that's it for this one. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm on all the socials. Kevin Rogers with On Point Pro Styles 110 in Gainesville. High Tech Films. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're not in the game. Check them out. hightechfilms.com/register. Check out their films. You'll be glad you did. TintDepot.com. All the film and tools you'll ever need. Premium films and tools. Easy to check out. Just fill your cart, check out, and you're done. Plotter Depot. PlotterDepot.com for plotters, software, plotters like I use, the Workhorse 3 from Plotter Depot, as well as Film Cut. Reach out to any of those guys. They're always happy to help. And again, if you need me, reach out to me. See you on the next one. Peace.